I'd like to call the August 21st, 2023 meeting of the City Council for the City of Lake City to order. If everyone understands the pledge of allegiance, remain standing for the invocation to be given by Vice Mayor Councilmember Tony Sampson.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Let's pray. Father, thank you for this day that you've given us and all of the great employees that the city has, and the firefighters and the police officers and the people that look out for us daily, take care of the business of the city, and please help our decisions to make sense to all citizens of the city. In Jesus' name, amen.
Amen. Ms. Sykes, will you call the roll, please?
Mr. Jernigan?
Here.
Mr. Hill?
Here.
Ms. Young? Here. Mr. Sampson?
Here.
Mayor Witt?
Here.
Mr. Dial?
Here.
Mr. Kennon?
Here.
Chief Butler?
Ladies and gentlemen, the Lake City Council has opened its public meeting since 1968. The city code has prohibited any person from making personal, pertinent, or slanderous remarks or becoming boisterous while addressing the city council. Yelling or making audible comments from the audience constitutes boisterous conduct. Such conduct will not be tolerated. There's only one approved manner of addressing the city council, that is to be recognized and speak from the podium. As a reminder, persons are not to openly carry a handgun or carry a concealed weapon or firearm while the governing body is meeting. No proclamations. We have minutes from August the 7th, 2023 regular session.
So approved.
Second.
Been a motion second to approve the meeting, minutes as published. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, like sign. Next is approval of the agenda.
So approved. Ma'am? Okay.
Motion, is there a second?
Second.
Okay, motion second to approve the agenda is published. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Next is public comments. I have a couple. Remember, it's 3 minutes and our buzzer's not working tonight, so if you can pay attention to that. Mr. Hudson, we'll start out with you.
Good evening.
Good evening.
My name is George Hudson Jr. On tonight's agenda, there are 2 items pertaining to Campbell Park and Lake Montgomery, and I would like to take this time to bring all of you, especially the newer members of the council that were not on the council last year, up to speed about this lake. A year and a half ago, the Florida Wildlife Commission came into this room with a grant in hand to request permission to build a fishing pier on the lake. As a 30-year homeowner on the lake, I was opposed to this, as I lived there when the last pier was there, and the pollution from that almost ruined that lake. I had many meetings with FWC, my city councilman, and my county commissioner about the pros and cons of the lake and the park. I lost that fight, and after several months, the city council voted a resolution for the pier to be built, but with stipulations that the park and the pier be controlled with the installment of fencing and gates, along with no lights on the pier. The council voted to set aside $100,000 for this project, with $20,000 going towards the construction of the pier, which I understand has already been paid, and $80,000 towards the construction of the fence and the gate, along with new signs and trash receptacles. It is my opinion that the council did not take into consideration the enormity of this project before they committed to it. But that what is done, and now it has to be done and needs to be done correctly, and that is all of our responsibilities. Over the last several months through meetings, I have found that a lot of mistakes have already been committed by some of those involved. The maintenance department, the IT department, the police department, council members, they did not know where the pier was going to be built. So they went in there, the maintenance especially, went in there and did things that they had to come and redo when they found out where it was going to be built. One item that needs to be taken care of first is the ordinance of the closing times of the park. Currently, the sign states closed at sundown, which is being ignored nightly. I'm hoping that the new ordinance will be set up like Alligator Park, that has times to open and close that change with the daylight savings times. This will make it easier for the closing of the gates, whether they are manual or electric time. Plus, it will give more privacy and security to the property owners. Lake Montgomery is the only fishable lake in Lake City that 90% of the property is owned by individuals. The city and 2 churches own the other 10%. I call the lake a cart and Campbell Park the horse. You cannot build one without the other, just like you don't go out and buy a big boat unless you have a truck to pull it. The park is the horse, what is going to control that pier and that lake and the future of that lake. At a recent meeting, the proposed drawing of fencing the park and pier without fencing in the parking area were presented. Since then, North Florida or some fencing company has been there, and the cost of that is only about $30,000. I went out personally to a sign shop, since our sign shop is down, and found out that we could get 5 new signs for around $1,500. A lot of other things are coming into play, such as noisemakers or lights flashing to warn people to get off the lake. A lot of things that need to be done before the pier is built, and I'm hoping that all the council comes together as one to take care of this lake for now and far into the future. We need to help each other with all of their projects. Do not let this lake become Gwynn Lake like others did before you that destroyed that lake and its homeowners. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, Mr. Woods?
Mayor, if I could.
Yes.
Address some comments that Mr. Hudson made. One, I take exception to his comment about maintenance. Did something they weren't supposed to do. That is not correct. I also have an issue that he has no reason to say anything about any city departments, especially my maintenance and my IT. IT has done what they've been asked to do, as well as maintenance. So anybody that comes up before this council and puts down one of my or 2 of my departments, won't get called out for it. He has his opinion. That's his opinion. We've done what we've been asked to do, and that's the end of my statement on that.
Okay.
Mr. Mayor, I have a comment on that. So I took what Mr. Hudson said a little differently. He said that IT and maintenance did not know where the dock was going. Is that correct?
I did not.
And I was at that
anything
meeting, and Mr. Brown and Mr. Benedetti, neither one knew where the dock was going. That's why we had to reallocate where the cameras were going. Is that the meeting you're referring to?
At that meeting, and along with Chief Butler about where cameras need to be, the IT guy had already set up schematics for cameras based upon the pier being where it used to be. I have not stated or insinuated to state that the department did anything wrong. I'm saying that where mistakes were made. Nothing in my thing is cutting down any department at all, from top to bottom. This has been handled in a way that all things should be handled. You've got to find out what's going on with these things that you're voting on, and know what we're getting into, and go from the beginning to take care of them. I'm not cutting down IT, no one.
Mr. Mayor.
Yes.
So I have a comment on that. So I think it was more of a communication from FWC of explaining exactly what the project was. Because I don't even know, I didn't know where the dock was going initially when we came in and spoke about it. I don't think Mr. Dial knew where the dock was going because FWC didn't inform us. So, but I just want you to clarify, because there wasn't a mistake made by the maintenance. They did a good job. And IT, when we met with Mr. Benedetti, he just didn't know where the cameras, they were gonna put them on the left instead of the right.
Correct.
But it's not a falling short in the employees.
No, I'm not stating that. And the FWC came in here and they're going to leave. Once that pier is built, they're gonna leave, and it's up to this council and this community to take care of this park. And you've got some of the things on the agenda tonight.
Mr. Hudson, could you come back to the mic, please?
Yes. At no time did I insinuate anything about your maintenance department. The FWC, if they controlled this, they sold it to this council. And if it was their job to take each and every one of you down there and show you, then they failed in their job. And I've had several individuals, 2 that are on this council, my county commissioner, the chief police, and others, that I, being informed with this project from the very get-go, am the only person that evidently that knew where things were going to be. And I will invite any one of you to meet me at the park, and I will be glad to show you. We've had meetings there. I'll be glad to show you what we're up against. Within my time limit here, I couldn't go on about the trash. I showed one of the council members the other day that we met there. Who is responsible for the trash on the lake? The FWC is not. They are responsible for the fisheries and for the plants. But they introduced the water lilies in there years ago that are invasive and protective. And they're gonna take over that lake. So what I would like to see done is the park be controlled like the council agreed on, and a way to do that within the perimeters of the dollar that they put forth. And I would like everybody to be informed. I did not know whether I need to come up here tonight or every single time that park is on the agenda to remind people that I live there, others live there. We want everybody to enjoy the lake, but we need our privacy and security for our homes, for people not to be there when they're not supposed to be. Just like in every other park in this town, just like every district, everywhere that you have. We've got to come together as a community, not just for this project, but for everybody's project. You're in charge of millions of dollars, and we want everything to be done right. This is just my pet peeve, and I'm not gonna give up. I just want to fight with the school board after 37 years to get the pool solar powered. I never gave up, and I'm not giving up on this. Any other questions for me? Thank you.
I got one question, Mayor. So what did the police department do that was wrong, or?
Police department did not do anything wrong. Police department, like the others, did not know where the pier was going to be. I met with them down there to discuss the future, that if there was no fencing, how are they going to control people in the park at night or on the pier at night when it's not going to have lights. I clumped all that together in my brain when I was saying mistakes were made.
Right.
Mistakes made that they cleaned the wrong side of the park first because they were not aware.
I got that, but I'm talking about the police department because I have witnessed the police department going in there, making their rounds. So I'm just trying to make sure that you're aware, and by you living on that lake, that they are definitely making security checks, if you would. They're making their rounds through there. So I just want to make sure I clarify that.
Yes, sir, and let me clarify this too, and Assistant Chief Andy Miles can clarify this. I sit on the back of my deck every night. My house is the closest one that's going to be to this pier. I see people in the park at night. I see people on the banks with lights. They're not supposed to be there. I contact Assistant Chief, and I'll call dispatch, so I'm aware that they go there, and we've had discussions that they're going to do regular rounds.
I appreciate that.
Okay.
I just want to clarify that.
Yes, sir.
That's
Thank
one
you.
department that is doing a really good job for us.
Okay.
Thank you.
Mr. Woods?
Thank you, Councilman. I just had a couple of questions that I didn't quite understand the last time I was here, and I've tried to find out. I don't know whether you can answer these questions I'm about to ask you. But regarding the ADA compliance of most of the city and a lot of the buildings, and almost 3/4 of your businesses not being compliant, has anything been addressed for that issue?
Not on the council level, we haven't had it at our meetings, but I know the police and everybody's aware of it, and I assume that they're taking actions.
Well, the reason I ask this is this is about a 6-year ongoing thing for me. And I've noticed that the businesses just will not do anything. And no matter what I say or what I talk, they just pretty much brush me off. Shouldn't zoning or some department of your city here be notifying all the businesses that they have to come in compliant?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Thanks, Wood. After your last visit here, we did have growth management, our code enforcement. They started going out and measuring and looking at the handicap parking spaces, the signs and different things of that nature. We're compiling a list of on everything. I have them researching all the ADA compliant rules and everything based on the businesses and where they are. And we should have some more of that information. Like I said, we're putting it all together now. I also sent them your number to give you a call to get some insight from you as well.
They called me and we had a meeting and they actually asked me, could I help advise them on some issues, but I haven't heard back from them. I'd be happy to take them and physically show them all of them. Because, you know, I probably know more because I live that world than they probably know or see. Because it's blind for some people, they just don't see it. But thank you for letting me know that, I appreciate it. And I'd like to also thank, I don't think you realize when you give the police force a little bit more money, it's gonna help people like myself that get blocked in and can't utilize the parking spaces. For that reason, they didn't have enough policemen to come there and take them. And I'm realizing that now. So I appreciate that, and I want to thank all of y'all, even though that's not my main objective. My main objective is for the city to come compliant. So it's, when I say it's stressful for me, I wish every one of you would take a ride with me and see what I go through every day I go out and come into your city. But that being said, one more question, young lady. I didn't know this, but I was told that I could get a copy of the budget. Is that about, could I get it tonight or do I come back?
We have an electronic copy on, are you asking about the proposed budget that was at the budget meetings last week for the upcoming fiscal year, or are you asking for last fiscal year's budget?
This coming fiscal year?
It's not finalized yet, but we do have the copies that were submitted. You can find those online. I'll be happy to give you the website, and I can show you right where you can get that.
Okay, thank you very much. Thank you.
I got a question for you, sir, a
Yes,
couple
sir.
questions. So, you say you're from where, what part of town, where you live?
I live off of 441.
You live off of.
I'm in the county.
Yeah, you're in the county, and you said that have you addressed this with the county as well?
Oh, yes.
So you're saying that the businesses around here, a certain percentage of them, is not in compliance with handicap, procedures? Is that what you're telling me?
Correct. You want me to give you a couple examples?
No, sir. I just want to make sure that that I'm hearing you correctly.
Yes, sir.
I mean, I can relate to you
There,
as a veteran, as a handicapped veteran. I can relate to that. So I'm just trying to understand that the way it seems like there's not a business around here that every business basically cramps your style.
no, sir. You have a few that are definitely in compliant. And
When you say a few, you know how many businesses we got around here? When you say
I know.
a few,
Well,
let's give an example.
Okay,
Let's say we have 100 businesses here,
all right.
and you only have 3 that's in compliance. We got a serious problem,
No, you got a big problem.
right? So
I went over to your paper, the reporter,
yes,
new building. I go over there just to talk with them about maybe some support. Couldn't get in the building. It's not compliant. My chair won't go in. No parking. I'm talking to the editor. I tell him, do you realize that you guys aren't in compliance?
So you're saying that they don't have a handicap?
No, sir. No, sir. I mean, I honestly, sir, would be so thrilled to take you on a daily trip, just where I go, and let you physically see if, because I live by myself, if I tried to go to Cracker Barrel, I cannot open those doors. I can't do it.
I got you. Okay.
And there's other business like that. Now you have businesses that are restaurants that are most 100% in compliant. And unfortunately, those are the only ones I go to, but I'd like to go to other ones. When you get in the business, most of them that aren't compliant don't have a table that will adjust for somebody like me.
Yes, sir.
And that's what I'm referring to.
Okay.
You know, there might be a fella in a walker that can handle that. There might be somebody in a portable wheelchair that can handle that. But when you have somebody that's permanently in a wheelchair now and drives his vehicle from this chair, you have to have the combinations for that type of person. And I've told them it's so easy to fix.
I got you.
Because these chairs raise up. You just get a taller table. Anybody like me would bother, and almost guarantee you would never say no, because they just raise up and they can eat comfortably. How I have to eat in the non-compliance is just like this, sir. I have to lean like that because I can't get underneath them.
Well, I appreciate your demonstration of explaining to me that I could get a good understanding as to what's going on. Because one day I'm gonna be disabled, and I want to make sure that every restaurant and every business that I go in is good in compliance as well. So I'm glad you and Mr. Dow, he's on it. So I'm glad you get a chance to meet with him, talk with him, and I'm almost positive that we'll try to see you through this. Okay?
I appreciate it very much, and thank you.
Mr. Dow, please make note of that.
I would like to say, Mr. Woods, I certainly appreciate you coming back. And I know you felt like you were shoved away the last time you was here. I even felt uneasiness. And I'm so glad that you came back. And I'm just grateful that Mr. Dow is working on this for you. And hopefully we will not stop until something is done. I thank you so much. And not just veterans, I just believe any person who is disabled, that we should be grateful enough that we have all of our movements and everything in order, that we should step out and do whatever it takes to make it as comfortable as we can, that you can get around these places and do the things as normal as you possibly can. And I apologize for the way you felt when you left. And I thank you for coming back.
Thank you. Thank you very much. God bless you.
Thank you. I meant to call on Dee earlier. Dee, wanted to make an announcement.
Yes, sir. Thank you, Mayor. I just wanted to give the council an update on our growth management director vacancy. We did make us a hire, Mr. David Young. He'll be starting on the 28th. He has recently been employed with us in the past, and I think he'll come in. The onboarding will be easy, and it'll be a nice transition into getting the permits back. Thank you.
Thank you. Dee here? Appreciate it.
Also, Mayor, I wanted to let the council know that growth management will be moving back to our first floor. Get somebody down there so our citizens come in, they have someone to talk to as well. So, just want to put that announcement out there.
We're good. All right.
And Mayor, if I could, real quick, you know, we had a recent vacancy, Matt Benedetti, moved on to a different position somewhere else. And we went through the application process, and I'd like to announce that Mr. Matt Saber, one of our employees, was designated as the IT director.
It is on the agenda.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, they'll consider it on
All right.
City Department of Finance is a separate place.
Under old business, we have an ordinance, we have open public hearing on city council ordinance number 2023-2254, final reading.
It's on the agenda.
Can you read that by title?
Ordinance 2023-2254, an ordinance of the city of Lake City, Florida, amending chapter 2, article 2, City Code of Ordinances, providing for amendments to the composition, functions, and responsibilities of various special standing committees, providing for severability, providing for the repeal of conflicts, providing for commutation, and providing an effective date.
This passed on first reading, 8/7/23. Anybody in the audience want to speak to this ordinance? If not, we'll close the public hearing and move into adoption of the city council ordinance 2023-2254 on final reading.
Mr. Mayor, make the motion to approve ordinance 2023-2254 final reading. Second.
Got a motion and a second, any discussion? Ms. Sykes, will you call the roll, please?
Mr. Hill?
Yes.
Mr. Jernigan?
Yes.
Mr. Sampson?
Yes.
Ms. Young?
Yes.
Mayor Whit?
Yes, next move to open a public hearing on city council ordinance 2023-2255 on final reading. Mr. Kenny, would you read this one by title?
Yes, sir. An ordinance number 2023-2255, an ordinance of the city of Lake City, Florida, prohibiting smoking and vaping in public parks within the city of Lake City, Florida, providing for severability and providing an effective date.
Okay, anybody want to speak to this one? This one was passed on 8/7/23. We'll close the public hearing, move into adoption of City Council Ordinance 2023-2255 for final reading.
Mr. Mayor, I'd like to approve that ordinance 2023-2255.
Okay.
Good.
Got a motion and a second, any discussion? Ms. Sykes, will you call the roll?
Mr. Jernigan?
Yes.
Mr. Hill?
Yes.
Mr. Sampson?
Yes.
Ms. Young?
Yes.
Mayor Witten?
Yes. Item 4 is open a public hearing on City Council Ordinance 2023-2256 on final reading. Mr. Kennedy, would you read this one? Title.
An ordinance of the City of Lake City amending the official zoning atlas of the City of Lake City land development regulations as amended relating to the rezoning of 10 or less contiguous acres of land pursuant to an application Z23-04 by the property owner of said acreage, providing for rezoning from commercial general CG to commercial intensive CI of certain lands within the corporate limits of the City of Lake City, Florida, providing severability, repealing all ordinances in conflict, and providing an effective date.
Anybody wish to speak to this? It is passed on final reading 8/7/23. We'll close the public hearing, move into adoption of City Council Ordinance 2023-2256 on final reading.
Mr. Mayor, make a motion for approval of City Council Ordinance 2023-2256 on the final reading.
Second.
Got a motion and a second, any discussion? Ms. Sykes, will you call the roll, please?
Mr. Sampson?
Yes.
Mr. Jernigan?
Yes.
Mr. Hill?
Yes.
Ms. Young?
Yes.
Mayor Witten?
Yes. We'll move into new business, there's no ordinances here, there's resolutions. First one is City Council Resolution 2023-084. Mr. Kenny, would you read that by title?
City Council Resolution number 2023-084, a resolution of the City Council of the City of Lake City, Florida, authorizing the city to enter into change order number 1 to the contract between the city and SGS Contracting Services, Inc., relating to the effluent pump replacement at the St. Margaret's wastewater treatment facility, decreasing the original contract price to a price not to exceed $422,686.41, and extending the project completion date an additional 60 calendar days.
Okay, is there a motion as City Council Resolution 2023-084?
Mr. Mayor, I'd like to make that motion on resolution number 2023-084.
Second.
Got a motion and a second, any discussion? Ms. Sykes, will you call the roll, please?
Mr. Jernigan?
Yes.
Mr. Sampson?
Yes.
Mr. Hill?
Yes.
Ms. Young?
Yes.
Mayor Witten?
Yes. Next is City Council Resolution 2023-085. Mr. Kenny, would you read that by title?
City Council Resolution number 2023-085, a resolution of the City Council of the City of Lake City, Florida, establishing Campbell Park to include a tract of land conveyed through ordinance 1999-850 and all adjoining parcels owned by the City of Lake City, Florida, as described herein, and providing an effective date.
Okay, is there a motion as City Council Resolution 2023-085?
Mr. Mayor, make a motion for approval of City Council Resolution 2023-085.
Second.
Got a motion and a second, any discussion?
On this portion here, that the fence, those fence steps gonna be put in, will that cover the whole park?
Yes. And this is what basically this ordinance was, is to combine, there was two pieces, one that was actually city property that was not designated part of Campbell Park. And basically what this does is clean that up and create that whole area as Campbell Park. So the whole area will be fenced.
Anything else? Ms. Sykes, will you call the roll, please?
Mr. Sampson?
Yes.
Mr. Jernigan?
Yes.
Mr. Hill?
Yes.
Ms. Young?
Yes.
Mayor Witten?
Yes. Next is City Council Resolution 2023-086. Mr. Kenny, will you read that by title?
City Council Resolution number 2023-086, a resolution of the City Council of the City of Lake City, Florida, amending resolution number 2006-035, relating to the perpetual maintenance, preservation, and care of Campbell Park by the city, and its acceptance of income from an endowment fund established by members of the C.G. Campbell family to partially fund the annual maintenance cost of the park and providing an effective date.
Is there a motion as City Council Resolution 2023-086?
Mr. Mayor, make a motion for approval of City Council Resolution 2023-086.
Second.
Got a motion and a second, any discussion?
Yes, sir. So that's, part of, our maintenance is gonna make sure that, the park is, taken care of. I know that we have designated areas that we go from this area to that area. So our maintenance department is gonna make sure that, everything's clean out there, am I correct?
Yes.
As far as garbage pickup and things like that, right?
Yes.
I just want to tell y'all something, they do a really good job out there. Cause I ride through there and I see that, you know, it's not in my district, I just happen to just be riding down there off of Bear. And I see those guys down there working hard, so, just let them know to continue doing the job that they're doing. Really appreciate it.
Anything else? Ms. Sykes, you call the roll, please.
Mr. Sampson?
Yes.
Ms. Young?
Yes.
Mr. Hill?
Yes.
Mr. Jernigan?
Yes.
Mayor Witten?
Yes. Next, City Council Resolution 2023-088. Mr. Kenny, would you read that by title?
City Council Resolution number 2023-088, a resolution of the City Council of the City of Lake City, Florida, authorizing the write-off of delinquent utility accounts through September 30th, 2021, finding the delinquent utility accounts to be uncollectible and providing an effective date.
Is there a motion on City Council Resolution 2023-088?
Mr. Mayor, I make the motion to approve resolution 2023-008. 88.
Second.
Okay, the motion on the second, any discussion?
Yes, Mr. Mayor, I got a question on this.
Me too.
So looking through this, there's a lot of people that should be paying their bills that qualify to pay bills. They got some money. So are we gonna sell these somewhere so someone's hassling these people for these payments or?
Mr. Harris?
So, once we write all these accounts off, they are sent to our collections agency. And from there, our collections agency sends out and collects the money for us and then sends us, roughly this year, we've collected roughly about 20,000 that's been written off into collections just this year.
The number looks better this year than last year for sure. And I was wondering too, so like, let's say someone has one account that's paying good and one that's bad, will you tie those, can we tie those together?
Absolutely.
Okay.
So what we do before we send this list in is we go through this list line by line. And anybody that has an active account, that maybe when we open that new account that we overlooked, or they had multiple accounts, if they have an active account, we take that balance and we send them a balance transfer letter letting them know that we are taking that balance and putting it on their active account. The ladies over there, they work very, very hard at when somebody comes in to open an account, they make sure that they're looking by social, last name, date of birth. If they have an account that has a balance, they're making them pay that balance before they open a new one.
That sounds good. I have
Yeah.
another
A
question.
lot of people don't, they think when we say we're writing it off that we're giving up on it, but
No,
that's
just-
accounting.
No, when we write it off, I have the list that is ready to go to our collections agency.
I have another question.
I have a
So,
question too.
so like, let's say someone on this list comes in, this list will show up in our system still.
Absolutely. So if they come in, they're on that list and they don't have another account, they're wanting to open one. In order for the collections company to get their money, their fee, because it's a free service for us to use the collections company, what we do is we refer them to DPS, and then they have to pay that balance, and then DPS emails us to let us know that they've paid their balance, and then we're good to go at that point.
Well, I got a question as well, Mayor. So, I see it says September 30th, 2021. So how long do a delinquent account, shows up? Do you give them 60 days, you give them 90 days? I remember, I forgot to pay my cell phone bill, and they sent me, and within 30 days. So we give them 2 years, we give them 90 days, 6 months?
So what we do is we write off the previous 2 years, so you'll see up to that date. And those are the ones that get sent to the collections now. But we have some that are coming in that may have just moved in, and we're collecting back from somebody that's owed us from 2018.
Wow.
Up until I came here, that wasn't pushed a whole lot until we finally got a collections department, and total probably over the last 6 years, we've probably collected over 80,000 in bad debt.
I know in the past, since you've been here, like you said, when we do this, write-off, you pursued it.
Thank you.
And,
We try hard over there. So that's one of the things when we get a new hire, that's one of the things that we push with them. When you're setting up a new account, make sure you're checking that social, date of birth. You know, and some of our older accounts, when we swapped over from Naviline a long time ago, some of those didn't swap over correctly. So, you know, we do a couple times a month when somebody comes in to pay their bill, we verify, is this your date of birth? Is this your social? Is this your phone number? Is this just to update our records so we have that?
Thank you, Mayor.
Very good, thank you.
Thank you. Okay, Ms. Sykes, you call the roll, please.
Mr. Hill?
Yes.
Ms. Young?
Yes.
Mr. Sampson?
Yes.
Mr. Jernigan?
Yes.
Mayor Whit?
Yes. Next is City Council Resolution 2023-089. Ken, would you read that by title?
City Council Resolution number 2023-089, a resolution of the City Council of the City of Lake City, Florida, authorizing the Lake City Police Department to apply for the Edward Byrne Memorial Justice Assistance Grant in the amount of $120,538, providing for the procurement of equipment for the use and benefit of the police department, and providing for an effective date.
Is there a motion that City Council Resolution 2023-089?
Mr. Mayor, I'd like to make that motion on 2023-089.
Second.
Been a motion and a second, any discussion?
Yes, sir. I guess this grant is a pretty good grant here, and the amount there. I wanted to suggest to Mr. Dowell, when it comes to the police department, that I want to see at least one vehicle. I would like to see at least one vehicle in pink instead of blue and white, or white and blue. I'd like to see one in pink for Breast Cancer Awareness Month, or Cancer Awareness Month, the month of October. And what that does is, when a citizen see that vehicle, that kind of like calms everything down when they see that pink. So if we can get one vehicle painted pink and white, or white and pink, or whatever, I would love to see that. And I think that there's been a lot of people around the city of Lake City and surrounding areas that has had a relative fall to that pink or that cancer, that cure that we hate to even say the word C. So if we can get that in motion, that would be really nice. Just one vehicle. I don't care if it's who drives it, but I would love to see that from the police department. One pink vehicle.
Okay, anything else? Ms. Sykes, you call the roll.
I just wanted to clarify, the motion on the floor is just to approve the resolution 2023-089.
That's correct.
Mr. Jernigan?
Yes.
Mr. Sampson?
Yes.
Mr. Hill?
Yes.
Ms. Young?
Yes.
Mayor Whit?
Yes. Next is City Council Resolution 2023-092. Mr. Kenny, would you read that by title?
City Council Resolution number 2023-092, a resolution of the City Council of the City of Lake City, Florida, authorizing the city to accept and approve the minor subdivision plat titled Bailey's Code Phase 2, subject to all conditions, provisions, and requirements in the city's code of ordinances, land development regulations, and comprehensive plan as amended, accepting the dedication shown on the plat, accepting the completion of all existing and future public improvements as are required for the subdivision, authorizing execution and recording of the plat, providing for the recordation of the plat, and providing for an effective date.
Is there a motion that City Council Resolution 2023-092?
I make a motion to approve resolution number 2023-092.
Second.
Been a motion and a second, any discussion? Ms. Sykes, you call the roll, please.
Ms. Young?
Yes.
Mr. Sampson?
Yes.
Mr. Hill?
Yes.
Mr. Jernigan?
Yes.
Mayor Whit?
Yes. Next is City Council Resolution 2023-093. Mr. Kenny, would you read that by title?
Let me borrow Mr. Jernigan's book to, can you flip to that? I wasn't in the office today. Is that the full title?
Hold on just a minute, Mr. Kennon, I'll give it for you.
City Council Resolution 2023-93, a resolution of the City Council of the City of Lake City, Florida, authorizing the execution of an agreement with Gallagher Benefit Services, Inc. for consulting services and providing for an effective date.
Is there a motion as City Council Resolution 2023-093?
Mr. Mayor, make a motion for approval of City Council Resolution 2023-093.
Second.
Motion and a second, any discussion?
Ms. Oxley, call the roll, please.
Mr. Sampson?
Yes.
Mr. Jernigan?
Yes.
Mr. Hill?
Yes.
Ms. Young?
Yes.
Mayor Witten?
Yes. Other items, project update, Mr. Dow.
Thank you, Mayor. I'll just run down the list. First on the list is Appomattox. We're still waiting on the lighting, and the concrete poles. Like I said, there was a several week lead time on them. They have not arrived yet. The project for Appomattox has about $13,250 remaining balance, and that will be up to the council to decide how you want to move forward with those funds. So that would be up to you all.
Do I need to state now or ask questions now? Okay. If it's okay.
Sure.
Okay. Under the remaining balance, the $13,250, there are still some projects that Appomattox would get done on their own, as such as water fountains and Mr. Johnson, can you play that list out for us?
Yes, they need a cover for the basketball court, I think is what we discussed, water fountains, benches. There's a lot of smaller projects that they said they wanted to use the funds for.
And I would like to ask the council to release those funds to Appomattox so that they can go on and get these projects done, especially the water fountains. Because if you go out there and look at those water fountains, they're, if I can say, to me, they're just unfit. And we need to go ahead and get that upgraded to good, clean, sanitized.
I'll second that.
Mr. Kent, can we do that tonight?
Probably not, it wasn't an agenda item because the other funds were allocated, so my recommendation would be to place that on next month's agenda, and then have a motion to release them at that time for the projects that Appomattox has submitted to Mr. Johnson to be utilized with that funding.
And that way they know
Mr. Mayor.
it's coming up.
So I got some comments on that too. I'm not in favor of releasing any more funds to Appomattox Park as a private park. Why are taxpayers paying for that? You know, we had an agreement in place for background checks. This council chose to release that. We're not following the Florida statutes there. There's no transparency. I'm not for giving funds to private organizations without the transparency. So for me, that's gonna be a hard no. Now, the water fountains need to be changed. Let's do it on a reimbursement if we're gonna do it. We just talked at the last meeting about reimbursement. No lump sum needs to be given to any organization anymore. I thought we talked about that. We wanna go back to saying, hey, if you spend that money, we decide to reimburse it, we got receipts to track. Water especially needs to be handled, and I could see spending for that, but just to give a check and not, I mean, for me, I'm not gonna vote for any funds without the background check. So until that's in, I mean, I know we didn't win that vote and we modified the agreement to remove the background checks. But until that's taken care of and we're taking care of the children, I won't be for it.
Okay, we just released funds without background checks. And the other thing is, I believe these funds was already allocated to Appomattox, so it's just a matter. Excuse me?
Or specific.
What was the specific? There was a list of items, and these ones that we're talking about, they were upon the list that needs to be done. So it's not anything that, any new project.
Well, that's why I need to come.
Mr. Mayor. So Mr. Johnson, were those on the list of projects we approved previously? Because I didn't see that on any agenda item I've seen. I saw basketball court, I didn't see anything about water fountains or any of that.
Well, the original resolution approved funds for the lighting and also the resurfacing of the courts.
That's the only thing.
Right. Yes, sir.
Okay, I just wanted to clarify that because we did not discuss that.
What
That
was the
not
money
discussed.
for? What was the money for?
The lighting and resurfacing of the court.
improvements at Annie Maddox
and
Park.
improvements.
Thank you.
As a board member, I do want to say, for us to do reimbursement, that creates a hardship on animatics because we don't have the money. That's why I was saying about the Black Chamber. When you talk about reimbursements, we don't have the money to buy the water fountains. Now, you could say, if you for the children, it is for the children because who's out there playing basketball in 100-degree weather and don't have any water sources out there? Because even if they bring a bottle of water from home, they're gonna need to refill it. So that's an emergency. We have too much, we're gonna pay for it when we gotta call the ambulance out there to go pick up somebody's child for heat stroke. But we cannot afford to do reimbursements. We can't afford a reimbursement because we don't have the funds to start off. Now, we can submit the receipts of when we purchase it. Once we get the money, we can submit the receipts. But as far as doing a reimbursement, we cannot afford that at Animatics.
And if you just take a ride past Annie Maddox and see the great improvement that has already been done, I will stand here and argue all night long that we don't shut that down. There's more activity out there now. Those children are out there and enjoying it. You go past there and all these colorful animals they're riding on, and it's just amazing. And we need to make sure that these funds that was allocated for Annie Maddox, that this money get used and this project get completed. Those children are too happy out there now, and we cannot shut it down.
And don't get me wrong, Mr. Sampson. When they say the word improvement, of course they were specific on the tennis courts and the basketball courts. But when you say improvement, that's the reason why I'm saying that I think it would be a valid point to get those water fountains up and running before we have to bring it back to the council. You gotta do this, I get it. There's procedures in place, but this money has already been allocated. And let me get you to understand something about background check. There's some things I didn't understand. I'm new to this council, don't get me wrong. But when it comes to a background check, I'm in law enforcement, so I'm not gonna not check an individual out that's not gonna be, that I think that's been around, that's been in prison, or that's bad for our community. That's the city of Lake City. I'm not in favor of that. Okay, I just want to make sure I clarify that. I'm not in favor of getting away with any background check when I know for a fact somebody has committed a crime or a violation, especially against a child or a senior citizen. And I am a senior citizen, okay? Make sure I clarify.
Mr. Mayor.
Yes.
So we voted to remove that. I didn't vote for it, but this council voted to remove the background check requirements. So you can be for a background check, but when you vote to remove them and they're not being done, it still puts children in danger. Because the average parent might not know where to go like we might know where to go. And so here's the other thing. It's a private organization again. Taxpayer dollars, public parks. It's wrong to spend public taxpayer funds all the time in private parks. We've got Sally Mae Jerry that needs things that we're not finishing yet, that they're working on. We've got other parks that we can support that are city parks. Some solutions are, if we're gonna take on funding Annie Maddox over and over, it's real easy. It can become a city park. And then we can fund it fully and take care of it fully, and then everything can be handled by the city.
But Mr. Sampson, what we are saying is there again, Annie Maddox Park has got to jump through all these hoops just to get water fountains. I mean, background checks or not, water fountains are needed out there.
And the private organization that runs it can provide them.
I just have one question.
Okay, very quick, because this ain't
Is
public
the chamber a
comment time.
private organization?
I'm not in favor of giving the chamber funds either.
No, what I'm
Yeah.
saying is nobody do background checks on the chamber. Y'all give money to the chamber. Y'all give money to the football people. Y'all don't do background checks. Nobody even did background checks on the council. It's just Annie Maddox. Y'all's gonna give $30,000 to the chamber without a background check. Y'all don't know who on there.
But yo,
And that's
they
a private
check my
organization.
background.
Yeah.
Well, I understand that this is a private park. This woman, Annie Maddox, this woman donated this property for the children. And the children are the ones who are getting the use out of this property. Now, we can't take them people's stuff. We can't take this park away. And we can't say we're not gonna fund it. We can't say we're not gonna be an assistance to them unless we shut everything out that's private. Who's suffering? The children are suffering. And here again, I'll sit here at 2 o'clock in the morning or later to stand up for Annie Maddox Park.
Okay, and just as a point of order so we can be clear at the next meeting, is the agreement defines the project as the grantee, which is Annie Maddox, has requested assistance from the city towards the resurfacing of basketball courts and tennis courts and improved lighting of the courts. So it'd be my recommendation, if there are funds in excess needed to complete the project, those two things, that the motion would need to be made to modify the agreement to utilize those funds for the specificities that were discussed tonight. That way, we're complying with the agreement. We would modify it just like we did with the background checks. It's the same thing, it's just I think the form of the motion needs to be, if the council so chooses, just modify the agreement to spend the excess funds for these projects. And then we can prepare a short modification and we're good to go, no problem.
That's fine. I don't know that we can really call it excess funds because the funds are for Annie Maddox.
Right, that's what I'm saying, is I think we need, because the agreement defined the project, that those funds were used for basketball, tennis courts, and lighting. Right, so if we need to amend the agreement to use whatever monies are left over from funding that aspect of the project, let's just expand the term project to include water fountains and those types of things. That's all we'd be doing. Same motion, it would just be tracking the agreement that we already have.
Understood.
Mr. Dowd.
Yes, sir. Update on Gwen Lake. We've met with Swanee River Water Management District to discuss a pre-app for permit and any available grant funding that may be available for that. Lake Montgomery, the fencing has been ordered. FWC is finalizing the bid package for pier construction. I was asked the other day about State Road 47 I-75. That project is complete. The lift station and everything is operational. We're in the process, I think this week, we should get the final clearance on the force main to be able to put everything into operation. Now, when they say State Road 47 I-75, that was the original project out of that $2.7 million grant that we had to put 2 lift stations and to run sewer to Kicklighter down at the Marine Corps, that's where the Caterpillar dealership is at. This next project is also State Road 47, it's the RV Park extension. Basically, if you remember, we got a grant back last year to run sewer throughout that park to get all those RVs and everything off of sewer and run them into our system. And we are waiting on a change order right now for that one to be able to process to move forward with that project. The Bell Road, or Bell Street is what it's actually called. That's up north of town where Warner Trucking is now. We're designing a route, a new force main route coming from there, coming all the way down and tying in to the Kicklighter system. We'll upgrade the sewer availability and capacity at Bell Road. And we're looking for about 60% deliverables on that. They're already surveying the route and doing engineering on that, and hope to get that by 8/31. Sally Mae, cameras installed. The eminent domain process is still ongoing. That's in Mr. Kennon's hands. The senior home project repair, the county has accepted the 3rd installment. The city has contributed $750,000 towards those efforts. Memorial Stadium, the structural repairs have started. They're in the process of that. We're hoping to have that done within about 3 weeks, so to be able to utilize the bleachers on that side. Patterson Street, This one's been out here for a while. Everything is ready to go. We're just having to coordinate, or the contractor's having to coordinate with 2 railroad companies to get flaggers. We can't do the project until we have railroad flaggers on site. And they're in the process right now of trying to get all of that scheduled. The other one on that we had was the Sisters Welcome Bar upgrade. We've got the final sign plans on that, and we'll basically have them on the shelf until we get decide how we're gonna move forward with that project. Is there any questions on them or?
Mr. Mayor,
Yes.
I've got some questions.
Sure.
Going first to the Lake Montgomery fencing, I know I saw the white lines in, that go around the inside. It would still be my recommendation, I know we don't wanna put a fence up there, but I think a fence right on the road and a flashing light sign that's when it's closed to stop it would be better, because there's a ton of traffic in that parking lot at night, and we're having to call the officer quite a bit out there because they're doing everything from starting fires to shining lights out there so they can do all this night fishing in the middle of the night. And not only does Mr. Hudson call you guys, he calls me first, which I can already see it because I can see the lights coming in, but we need to do something to shut that off so people cannot drive in there at night. And I think if we put right now when someone pulls up, it'll flash when they're coming out. I think we do the same thing, that when the gates close, you can have a flashing light on each side. That way no one turns in there. But that would be my recommendation. I think since the fence is already coming, now would be the time to do that.
Well, I agree with you on that, Todd, simply because on 90 at McDuffie, GW Hunter, and the go-kart place, they have a sign, a fence right there on 90. So when it's closed, you can't turn in there. So, and I went and looked at where they're gonna put the fence at. If they do it the way they got the stakes out, the parking lot still can be utilized. But if the fence is all the way across, this is just my opinion, if the fence is all the way across, can't nobody get in until the gate is open. That's just my opinion.
On the, I'm gonna move to another one if you all are done with that one. On the Sallie Mae Jerry, Attorney Kennan, if you would kind of give us an update on it.
Yeah, we have discovered some additional errors at Roser Park, so we're in the process of getting them the required notice. Once those are sent out, then we'll amend that particular lawsuit to show that those errors have been notified, and the Livingston family, we had to make an amendment to that complaint. I think Ms. Adams has that done, or is in the process of finishing that, and that'll move forward. So as soon as we get the Rosa Park errors identified, those will go, because we set it up so that once we get the notices out and finalized, and get the complaint in that proper form showing them as defendants, and we can go ahead under the law and take possession of those 2 lots and go ahead and start their utilization as parking lots. The appraisals for both lots were $7,500. I know we had correspondence a while back from the only Livingston error we could find, or that we did find in New York, and at least he was okay with the $7,500. So ultimately, those 2 pots of money will need to be put into the registry of the court, and then they'll come in and litigate their percentages of entitlement to it. But that'll get us a final judgment of taking.
Okay, that's great, and thank you so much, because the use of the park, I see families, more and more each day are going out there, and we definitely need parking for them. Yes.
And then on the other update I had, been working with Mr. Johnson on Annie Maddox. We're still, as Mr. Dial indicated, waiting on the materials. So our game plan right now is to take the survey that we have of the entire park and confer with the board. And our recommendation to the board is going to be that they grant us an easement over the entire park for the purpose of installation, maintenance, preservation of the camera and lighting system. Because I can envision what's going to happen is at some point we're going to put a camera in this direction, and we're going to find out it needs to be moved 40 feet over into this direction. And it's just not beneficial for the city to pay for revisions to the easement every time we find, you know, a different area that needs the security. So if we have an easement over the whole park for the just for the purpose of the lighting and camera systems, that way we can then adjust them as needed. Law enforcement may come in and say, look, we've got a problem over in this corner, we don't have a camera there. We can move one there, if we have that easement, we can do it without y'all paying me to revise the easement every time we need to change a camera angle or location. And then once we get with IT and formulate at least a general direction of where the cameras are, we're gonna meet with the adjoining landowners and go over what that camera does, and if it does encompass any part of their property that they feel comfortable with that, and give us the okay to move forward. We felt like in our discussions, it's better to head that off in the past and put a camera. Landowner comes up and says, I think it's in my backyard, and then we got a problem. So we can, I think, save a lot of money on the legal side by handling it with good public relations up front. And so that would be our plan, to go ahead and get that implemented. So hopefully when the materials do come in, we've got that groundwork underway.
Mr. Mayor, I got a question. So on that overall easement, if I were on the park side, I would want something in there to say, you know, we can kind of control where it goes. You don't just come in and plop it in the middle of the football field or something. So if we're asking for an overall easement, would there be something that would say, you know, exclusive of, you know, where we wouldn't interfere with existing buildings and things like that?
Correct. And if we have, and again, if the park decides, you know, 2 years from now that they want to expand the building, add a building, do A, B, or C, and that requires the relocation of lighting or a camera, because under the agreement, we own those cameras and lighting systems, and they've already agreed to provide us access for those. But I could envision, say they want to put up, you know, double the bathroom size. Well, we may need to move a light to encompass, for safety purposes, that expansion under that hypothetical. That way we can do it without, again, y'all having to pay legal to go in, redraft the ordinance, have mapping go in and figure out what the new coordinate for that is. And I think we can discuss that with them and work those out. But I think that's a better option than us having to potentially change it every so often. That costs money, less of ordinance.
Mr. Mayor, I have some other questions too. On the 4775 lift station, and now there's a water component to that too, is that correct? It's, the water's on the other side of the road now too?
Well, 4775 was always just strictly just sewer, that was the sewer grant. Now, we did run water lines at the same time on certain parts, so the water was already available at Green Court on both sides.
Is there a plan to run water across over there? I've been getting requests from people farther down on 47 out where that church is, the Dollar General, and all of those guys, they all want water.
Yeah, that's the second phase of this one. It was supposed to be on the agenda tonight. I have a task order from Jones Edmond. That's what we've been discussing, to get water, sewer, and gas transferred to the other side. We already have locations for the board of where we typically think they're going to go, because we're getting ready for the new development that they're talking about. It's going to go in.
That's right. That's exciting times down there. And then on the Bell Street, just to clarify, back when we did the order, is this one of the mini projects we did through Edmund Jones? Jones Edmonds, it was.
Yeah, it was like, there was originally like 6 phases of it, and we combined it into 2. The county took the north side that was in their section, and we took the south side coming in, and we had the bigger part. And that's when they're in the process now of surveying and getting the data. We met, I think it was a couple of weeks ago, to go over the proposed route. Made a couple of changes to them so we could avoid some contaminated area, but that project is moving on.
One other thing I noticed too, it seems like we're doing pretty good mapping the Seward and everything out there. I've seen a lot of, I wouldn't say what a good job it looks like they're doing out there. I've seen them in places all over the city, mapping out sewer lines, water lines, but sewer primarily. I think they're doing a really good job uncovering what we got there, then we'll find out what's Orangeburg and what's not.
That's true.
And then as far as that goes, the the Patterson Street's ready to go. One that's not mentioned here is James Montgomery. I get a lot of calls on that one as well. Is that next after Patterson still?
Or even before then, just as soon as we get, everything worked out on that one.
Very good, thank you so
Because we
much.
broke that one actually down into 2 different phases. Part of it's gonna be a scope grant coming up. Basically, it was too expensive. We were going to try to do it all at one time. That road is in such bad shape. We were going to basically go in, mill, resurface, and do all the ditches, the underlying, the drainage and everything. But it came back way too expensive. So this time we decided just to go ahead and move forward with the surface resurfacing, but we have to mill it. Or probably the easiest thing to do without, since it's bad, just go in there with a loader and just pull the asphalt off of it, fix it, lime rock, and just repave it. And we got confirmation that that should not affect the second phase, which would be the ditches and the drain structures. And we've already talked with DOT, and they seem very positive that we should be able to get the grant to fix the ditches and the drainage on them.
Very good.
Mr.
Excellent
Dowd.
news.
Mr. Dowd, if I may, when you're going down Lake Montgomery at the bottom of that hill, what is the water like? It just gathers right there. You have people driving like 45 miles an hour, and it's almost like the hydroplane, when they hit the bottom of it. That's on Bear. So when they come in from, I guess, east or west, and they're driving and they hit that water, it just seems like the water's just there, and almost like the hydroplane to get out of there. That's a bad, that's a disaster waiting to happen right there. Right there at the bottom there. So in your notes, please monitor that if you would.
Okay.
Thank you.
I got two First, Mr. Johnson or Mr. Dow, what's the, on the sign, moving that sign out there?
Oh, that one, the last, that, I think Mr. Johnson, a couple of weeks or so ago, or 3 weeks, the pastor or the individual we needed to talk to for the thing was out of town. Mr. He had talked to him and he has not responded back to us.
Okay. Next thing on Gwen Lake, you say you're waiting on funding and permitting?
Yes, sir. They had a meeting, we've already done the pre-app for it, and we're hoping to get on the first, I think their first meeting in September, whatever date that is. The reason we went ahead and done the pre-application so we could go ahead and meet with Swanee River. We've already met with them on site. I believe you were out there as well.
Right.
And we're trying to find out what they will go ahead and permit us to do. I'm hoping we can get some permitting, that we can go ahead and start doing some stuff in-house, like maybe removing some of the sediment. If they'll go ahead and let us remove the old dam, or I call it a dam,
Yeah.
out here, go ahead and get all that removed before we have to do the actual permitting for the rest of it, so we can at least get in there and do something. And we've also discussed about being able to find different funding avenues to be able to pay for some of that restoration.
Okay, that what it was, about roughly $400,000 that was set aside for Gwen Lake.
Yes.
What would that be used for?
Well, that's what, if we can get in there and they'll tell me to give me some kind of permit, we can go ahead and get in there and start removing some of that vegetation, get some of that sediment hauled out of there. That's what all that money will go for.
Okay.
To go ahead and make the aesthetics of it look better than what it is right now.
All right, appreciate it.
All right.
I wanna ask something.
Okay.
I really want to, reiterate the importance of our support council when it comes to Salome Cherry, which is, it appears to me that it's a family park. And I just shall pass by there and see these families out there and enjoying it, and it's not even at completion yet. And then Annie Maddox, park, which, yes, it's a private park, but we have to, understand that this park is for the benefit of these young people, and there are some adults as well. But these young people who we say are the future, but they're not the future, they're today. And it's very important that we put our concern and our time in the things that will draw them to and away from unlawful activity. my heart is at the parks. Because that's what we have left to really in our young people. Unlawful activity is so easy. And when we have something that can pull them away from it, we gotta put our time, our concern, our money into these things. And so you're gonna hear me harp on it. I'm just not gonna let it go. So I just ask that you be mindful when you leave here that this is a help to us. Not only the children, it benefits us as well. We wanna walk down these streets and not feel unsafe. And this is the main thing that we need to have our mind, pass by there, ride by there, and see how these monies have been spent there already. And by this time next year, you'll be amazed. You're gonna really appreciate it. So let's support this council, if you will. Thank you.
Thank you. Item 13 is informational. We do have some upcoming dates, September 5th. That's the day after Labor Day, and then we have a special meeting September the 11th, and then our regular meeting on September 18th, and that'll do our budget. Any comments or comments? If not, then I'll take a motion to adjourn. All right. We're adjourned.